Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Lieutenant General Bob Caslin, I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's dedication of the Senator Pat Roberts Room. This afternoon, we have the pleasure of welcoming many distinguished guests and visitors for this ceremony. We would like to recognize the Commander of the Combined Arms Center and Fort Leavenworth and Commandant of the Command and General Staff College, Lieutenant General Bob Caslin and Mrs. Caslin. Representing the Secretary of the Army, we have Lieutenant General Retired Robert Arter, Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army, and Mrs. Arter. Mr. John Armbruster is here from the Executive Director of the Governor's Military Council. We would also like to recognize the general officers, local community leaders, members of the Business Executives for National Security, and CGSC Foundation members. Thank you all for your participation this afternoon. In 1881, General William Tecumseh Sherman established a school of application for infantry and cavalry at Fort Leavenworth to be a center of excellence for training in the combat arms. From this predecessor to the Command and General Staff College of today, Fort Leavenworth has graduated more than 85,000 U.S. and international officers. In its history, the Command and General Staff College has occupied various sites on this post. Its original location was Barth Hall on the corner of Kearney and McClellan, now BCTP, which it occupied from 1881 to 1890. From 1890 till 1959, Sherman Hall, now the CAC headquarters building, served as the CGSC home. Bell Hall was the CGSC home from 1959 to 2007 when we moved here to the Lewis and Clark Center. Many of you in the audience today will remember the predecessor to this beautiful facility we are standing in, Bell Hall. Many thousands of CGSC, SAMS, and former CAS Cube students passed through Bell Hall and remember it fondly. However, from its grand opening in 1959 to the 1990s, the condition of Bell Hall was noticeably deteriorating, and the leadership of Fort Leavenworth was faced with a difficult decision to keep Bell Hall or replace it with a newer, more technologically modern campus. In a letter from the CAC commander to TRADOC on the 2nd of October, 1998, the commander stated the problem. He said, "We have reached a major crossroad regarding Bell Hall. We have now reached a point where we must start investing millions of dollars in repairing the internal building systems or face major system failure that will shut down the CGSC indefinitely." In the face of outdated equipment and inadequate classrooms, as well as an ever-increasing number of safety deficiencies at Bell Hall, the leadership of Fort Leavenworth needed an advocate to help push for a much-needed new facility. The person who emerged as that advocate and the catalyst for what was to become the Lewis and Clark Center was Senator Pat Roberts. On the 7th of June, 2000, on the Senate floor, Senator Roberts introduced the language for a new instructional facility to replace an aging and inadequate Bell Hall. Senator Roberts not only introduced it, but saw it through from beginning to completion. As a result of his efforts, we are here today to honor Senator Roberts by establishing a permanent presence in the Lewis and Clark Center by renaming the former Trophy Lounge as the Senator Pat Roberts Room. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commandant of the Command and General Staff College and Commander of the Combined Arms Center and Fort Leavenworth, Lieutenant General Bob Caslin.
Well, good. Great to see everybody. Hopefully you survived the rain a little bit. Some of us didn't. We're not so fortunate. Mike, I see that you had a good time. Senator, sir, we are really honored that you're here, and the fact that you've taken some time out of your incredibly important day and the busy schedule that you have to participate in this thing. You know, Senator Roberts has really had a truly distinguished career in the United States Senate in support of military, not only the military here at Fort Leavenworth, but the military at large. As you know, he started off as a Marine officer in 1958 through 1962, and during that time he co-authored the Marine Corps Counterinsurgency Manual, critically important to what eventually became United States Army and Marine Counterinsurgency Manual that General Petraeus put together a couple years ago. He's an 8-term U.S. Congressman and a 3-term United States Senator, and he's been a vocal advocate for the military installations in the service here in the state of Kansas, and across America for that matter. He served as a senior member on the Senate Armed Service Committee, where he's also served as the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee for 4 years, where he led some of the most sweeping assessment of our nation's intelligence community ever conducted. He also served as the chairman of the Senate Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Capabilities. And if you know anything about intelligence, you know anything about what the Senate Armed Service Committee does, you know that those are critically important with regard to what our national security is all about and the resources that are aimed to secure that. He's been a friend at Fort Leavenworth, at the Combined Arms Center, and at the Command and General Staff College for years. To name just a few things that he's made possible here at Fort Leavenworth, first is the Ike Skelton Chair for Counterinsurgency. He also was instrumental in putting together the Integrated Base Operations Center, which is critical to how we see to particularly emergency operations with the garrison. He was instrumental in getting the funding required to establish education relationships at Kansas State University and the University of Kansas both. I was interested to hear that Senator Roberts is said to also have coined, and I didn't know this, he was also said to have coined the phrase at the intellectual center of the Army with regard to what we do here at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Without a doubt, Senator Roberts was the driving force behind this wonderful and all-inspiring facility, as you heard in the history there, the one that we're standing here today, this beautiful facility that is the envy of everyone in the United States Army, or for all the services for that matter. The genesis of this building occurred on June 7th, 2000, when he introduced language onto the Senate floor, noting the need for a new facility for the Command and General Staff College. One of the urban legends was, and I talked to him earlier, and it is confirmed, that he took a pipe out of Bell Hall and would walk up and down the halls of Congress saying, "This is what is the quality of the education that we are providing to our military today." And as a result of that, he drove home the need throughout the entire Senate, and the Congress for that matter, for the importance of this facility. This building will meet the Army's leader development and education needs for many years to come. And without his dedication and commitment to our military, this facility would never have been built. And on behalf of Fort Leavenworth, the Combined Arms Center, and the Command and General Staff College, sir, I just want to say thank you very much. You have made an incredible difference. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to introduce and to bring to the podium the man of the hour, Senator Pat Roberts.
General Kasdan, thank you for that very kind introduction. I must say that the high road of humility is not often bothered by heavy traffic in Washington, but it sure is in regards to Leavenworth. I am flattered, I am deeply humbled that you have chosen to name this room the Trophy Room in my honor. It is always a privilege and a pleasure to visit Fort Leavenworth, yes, the intellectual center of the Army. And it is quite an honor to represent this institution in the United States Senate. The existence of the Lewis and Clark Center, where we now stand, and the replacement of Bell Hall is the result of hard work of many in Congress and Fort Leavenworth. So credit for this construction goes to many. I must give significant credit to my good friend and former colleague, the late Senator Ted Stevens of Alaska, when he was the chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, and that of Hawaii Senator Danny Inouye. He was the ranking member at that particular time. We just had services Wednesday for Ted, who died in a tragic plane crash. The Vice President was there, Senator Inouye was there, Senator McConnell and Senator McCraskey spoke, about 20 other senators and 4 stars, representatives from all of the services. Additionally, Stevens' longtime aide and authority on all things military construction, Sid Ashworth, deserves my deep gratitude and sincere thank you for ensuring funds for this construction. Now, the Senate is known as a more deliberative collegiate body of the Congress. The House says that we simply watch the grass grow. but they're a little more rowdy over there. I know the politics of today represent a rather serious threat to that stability, but it is still true. The Lewis and Clark Center would not be possible without support from my colleagues. Though some may say it was my tenacity, one senator from Kansas, perhaps obsession, in regards to a single rusty pipe that ensured this project would be funded. Now, you have just heard this story. Many of you have heard this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. It's my pipe, and I'm the senator. It does represent what we all can and should do if we can accomplish and work together. In April 2001, I got an invitation from the then commanding general, if not a marching order, to come to Fort Leavenworth, Mike Steele. And basically, after some speaking and a whole lot of listening, basically there were 12 rowdy Marines in the Command and General Staff College class at that time. And then I took a tour of Bell Hall. Along the way, and in an effort to explain to me just how badly this institution, the pride of the Army, needed a new center for learning, Mr. Charles Russell, Chief of Maintenance, reached up into the ceiling and pulled out a piece of rusted, twisted, downright disgusting-looking pipe and said to me, "Senator, this is what the infrastructure of Bell Hall is really like." Mr. Russell is actually responsible for making me infamous in the Senate. We might as well call it Charles Russell Hall. I kept that piece of corroded Bell Hall pipe when I left that day, and I took it with me everywhere. I shook that pipe at members of the Senate Armed Services Committee, members of the Military Subcommittee on Appropriations, and anybody that could give me any couple of minutes of attention. That pipe visited appropriations meetings, subcommittee hearings, even a full Armed Service Committee hearing. In fact, members and staff, and more especially chairmen of committees, began to dread the sight of the coming Roberts-Russell rant and the sight of that damn pipe. But sometimes that's what it takes. That piece of pipe represented something very broken and very wrong. As you all know, our nation's best and brightest come through Fort Leavenworth, and our visiting international officers do as well. Why on earth would we put such esteemed representation in a building where the very infrastructure was falling apart? That didn't make sense to me, and in the long run, we worked together, and our Lewis and Clark Center became a reality. I remember standing, I think right about over there, when we first dedicated the building. And I was a little nervous. Always makes a Marine captain a little nervous to be there with all that brass, and there were 2 stars and 3 stars and 4 stars. And a 3-star sort of elbowed me, and I thought, my God, I didn't have a haircut right, and my shoes weren't shined and whatever. And I said, yes, General. He said, Senator, he said, this thing is really first class. I said, yes, it is. He says, it is absolutely outstanding. And I said, yes, General, it is. And then he looked at me and said, are you sure this didn't come out of the Air Force budget? Well, in the process, I had the privilege of meeting and working with unique and special soldiers, General Steele, Riley, Wallace, and Petraeus, and Caldwell, and now Chasm. There was also a lot of serious visitation and strategic talk at Mamma Mia's, and also in regards to some very fine steaks there where we discussed the affairs of the nation. As a Marine, I understand deeply. Anything I do, anything Congress does, pales in comparison to the sacrifices our men and women in uniform and their families make for our nation. I am confident that all who work so hard to bring the Lewis and Clark Center into existence have provided our warfighters doctrine and training and capability, enabling the finest military in all the world to complete their difficult missions and return home safe. So I am humbled to be honored with this dedication. But the honor lies not with me, but to all those who continue to ensure our nation's safety and security in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and deployments all over the world. They are the heroes of today and tomorrow. These brave men and women deserve the very best leadership this Army is able to give them. This Command and General Staff College, now housed in this new technological marvel of a building, plays indeed a major role in educating and developing that needed leadership. God bless these warfighters. God bless you all. God bless our outstanding Army, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
General Caslin will now join Senator Roberts for the official unveiling of the Roberts Room.